Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and you know I'm so glad that you could keep our appointment. Well, tonight, I got my friend, our teacher, and our real Chief Pontiac, aka Rodney. And tonight, he's going to talk about the fact that it's all about systems. And actually, we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago, and he turned me on to the work of prominent author, theorist, the late Neely Fuller Jr. He's renowned for his extensive work on systematic racism and white supremacy. Chief Pontiac, as I said, will delve into, among other things, the 9 areas that Fuller focused on: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war and counter-war. Now, I know we're all excited because we are never, ever disappointed when Chief Pontiac is with us, and tonight is going to be no different. So I want to welcome back to Office Hours with Dr. G for the, I don't know what time, but he's no stranger. Chief Pontiac, aka Rod Hayes. Welcome.
Hey, Doc.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How's it going?
I'm glad to hear that you're doing good. I was trying to stretch it out so we could use up all the music, but you know how things go. But I'm excited about you being here. And as soon as the music stops, I'm gonna greet our audience. Wow. So, Chief, you've been making the rounds in the last couple of weeks. I was like, gosh, I don't know whether we're gonna have anything to talk about, but I know you have a plethora of information. You and we have so I wish I was recording some of the conversations we just had. You know what I mean? When we're not online, because those are so profound and I get so much from it, you know, and I'm trying to catch it all and dissect it and try to make sure I'm understanding and understanding everything you're saying. And it's just amazing, the wealth and the breadth and the depth of the information that is inside of you. I want to call you a living, breathing, walking, talking encyclopedia, thesaurus, etymology dictionary, and all of those other things. You know, book of life is just, it's like you are. You've spent time in a place where, you know, most people would, you know, what they call it, they call them the dismal crypt or whatever they call it.
Dismal crypts, yeah.
Dismal crypt, but you came out crypt walking.
Hey.
You came out full of knowledge, and the interesting thing, the wonderful thing about that is it hasn't stopped. You know, as things change, as times change, you know, you write in the mix of what's going on now, and that's important. So I like to welcome you. I like to welcome all of our viewers. I want to ask you, rather, I can't tell you what to do, but please like and share the fact that we're on, so that we can get these numbers up. Because these are not the numbers that we are so used to. So I'm gonna make sure that, you know, please like. You already got, you know, like in advance, love it in advance. Put those hearts up or those thumbs up. And let me see what the folks are saying in the chat. I see all kinds of little, yeah. Brother, I like that. Sister Barbara Brown said, brother record keeper. among others. So yeah, so listen, it's all about systems. Like I said, you went on several. Before we get into the systems, I guess maybe you think we should just delve into current stuff so we can get that out the way.
It's your show. You asking the questions. I'm just answering best I can.
You know, folks don't like me to talk when you're on there. They want me to shut up and just let you lecture. But you know, I can't do that. I can't do that. You know, I can't be a talk show host and not talk a little bit and have a little bit of knowledge. I have to test what I know. So if you tell me that what I'm saying don't make no sense, then I know that what I think I know, I don't know. Right? So we have to dialogue. And so the reason why I was talking about current events, a lot of people, I mentioned this to you earlier, a lot of folks are talking about the fact that President Trump pardoned, did all the pardons that he did, but one in particular, and a lot of folks are seeing it from different perspectives. Some are seeing it, as a great thing, and others are seeing it as no more than a move to try to get brownie points with our community, But
he didn't.
Hoover.
Yeah, he didn't need the commuted sentence to get support from our community.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't put in enough work. In college, he bankrolled the Black Panther Party. He got people that he moved in his Trump Towers. There's a sister that lived there rent free because she was homeless. He didn't did a lot in our community besides the Larry Hoover situation. But what the Larry Hoover situation is a nod to the tribes. So he got us under the. When we talk about systems, the dictionary is a very powerful tool if you know how to use it and if you know how to misuse it.
Okay.
Right? Like they call the word gang like it don't mean tribe. It means tribe. When you look at the etymology of the word, gang means tribe, clan, clique, posse, crew. Right? But they villainize the word. They make the word become a bad word. When we was watching the Bowery Boys or Little Rascals, our gang was not a bad word.
True. That's true.
But when they wanted to COINTELPRO us, all of a sudden, first, demonize the word. Make people scared of the word so that when you attach the word to a person, you're not telling them this is the tribal leader for this tribe. You telling them this is the enemy we came to destroy. See, most of us don't know that the government declared war on the people. And most of the tribes, like 80% of them, when you translate the language that they were speaking into English, the name of the tribe mean the people.
What do you mean the name?
When you translate, okay, so it was many different tongues on the land.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the tribes refer to themselves as the people in their respective language. Some of them refer to themselves as kinfolks in the respective language. But it's pretty much the same thing. We the people comes from the Continental Congress. It don't come from the Civil War or the rebellion against Britain. Britain colonized the word and the usage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when they get down controlling how you think by like the word conspiracy just means two or more people came together and made a plan. That's it. That's all it means. It don't mean nothing else. But when they get done conspiracy theory, when they hit you with the theory part, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Now they didn't demonize it because I was also a part of the MK Ultra program. But we don't know that because most of us ain't never read the MK Ultra files. Sometimes I wish I had never read it.
So, yeah, but historically, like you said, they have declared war on the people. We may not know all of the things that happened, 200 years ago, but just come up into, the 60s and the 70s and stuff, and talk about the Black Panther Party, was it SNCC, CORE, Nation of Islam, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, all of the, MOVE in Philadelphia, those types of organizations that rose up to be more of a help, if you will, self-help groups to help ourselves and do for ourselves, became the targets of, the system, like you said. That, like, speaking of war, they said we're doing a war on drugs. And I remember writing a piece in the 90s they're doing a war with drugs, not on drugs. They weren't warring on drugs. They were using drugs to war against our people for the most part, largely. Now, of course, some of them got caught up, just the collateral damage, but the war wasn't on drugs. It was with drugs. You agree?
DEA. Remember what it stand for? Drug Enforcement Agency.
Right.
What they enforcing? It's right in the title.
Drugs.
Iran-Contra, the highest elected officials on the land, president, vice president, and a couple of generals, Oliver North and Poindexter or whatever his name was, they all got caught red-handed shipping tons of cocaine into the country. The government is supposed to not supposed to be able to create a crime and punish you for it.
True.
But they're creating the crime and then they're punishing you for it. Then when you try to do something good, they take it and say, look what we did. The Panthers came out with the program that became WIC. It was brothers and sisters that came out with the ambulance service. We had no ambulance service. We couldn't get to the hospital in a timely manner.
I heard you say that on another show, and I did not know that. Just, absolutely didn't know that.
We didn't have no, when they was busting us in the head and sicking dogs on us, we didn't have no EMTs. We didn't have no ambulance, no EMT. The fire department wasn't doing that. They was getting cats out of trees. But nobody taking care and tending us when they was beating us upside the head with clubs and putting us in the chokehold and shooting us in the back. Wasn't nobody coming to get us. We had to figure it out. And then once we did it, they repurposed it and put all pale faces in it and say, see, look what we did. We made it where y'all can get to the hospital in a timely manner with some medical assistance on the way. They had breakfast at school until the Panthers came along and a couple of other groups. That wasn't common. Wow. It was very uncommon. Like all of the stuff that our people was doing, like holistic living, down in Africa. He was reminding us about holistic living. That's why he had to go. And then what they do, they turn around and monetize it. Mm-hmm. Right? We had holistic doctors. They came out in the medical field with something called a naturopathic physician. Same thing.
It didn't exist.
It's the same thing. They take everything we do and monetize it so they can make money off of it. And then they act like they're the only ones that was doing it. They telling you that Henry Ford was a factory of cars being produced in the late 1800s. But he didn't get the credit because he didn't have the backing of the system. We go back to that systems word again.
Right.
The system is responsible for every failure that we appear to have. We don't have no failures. We don't miss. We just don't know we don't miss because they keep stepping on us. And then once we do something, they take it and turn around and do it. If you read Behold a Pale Horse, the story of Jonathan Mays, where they got gross domestic product. They didn't know nothing about using the resources other than gold and silver to back money. They don't know nothing about that. But when they caught him doing it, they sent him to prison for 25 years, turned around and did it. Then they got a guy named, huh?
Now, who was it that started that?
His name was Jonathan May. He was a farmer, and he would ascribe value to the stuff on his farm, and then he would use it as leverage to, barter and trade, lend and borrow. Right? Just like Social Security came from Ponzi. Remember the good old Ponzi scheme?
Right.
That's Social Security.
That's right, because what they basically are doing is the earlier ones in get the benefits, and they hoping that they die off before they siphon it all, and the new ones have to keep coming in to feed the system for future stuff that they've already promised to pay out that they don't have. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. See, the whole thing about Social Security is in year one, you have 100,000 people paying into Social Security at all age levels. Right? It don't activate for 5 years. Then whenever it activate, now them same people that started it, about 30% of them gone.
Mm.
By the time you get to 62 years old, it's only a handful of them left. Right? It's just the great old American kind. But if you don't know kind games, they'll trick you every time into thinking they're doing something that you wasn't already doing. Everything that Thanksgiving was a tribal holiday over here. We was a celebration of a harvest. Right? But Black Friday, they slaughtered us because we've been invited to settlers to dinner. And contrary to popular opinion, they wasn't pale faces. Pale faces don't start coming over here until the late 1700s, early 1800s. Before that, we were fighting some people that looked like us. And they whitewashed the history to make all of the people that we was fighting didn't look like us. But we got historians that wrote about Black conquistadors and Black Huguenots and Black gentry, and they called them the Black Hand, the Black nobility, the secret power behind the Pope, the usurpers of the sacerdotal seat of the Great Mother. It's all in the books.
But again, we don't read.
Yeah, but that's why they put it in the books. See, the preachers used to tell us when the AME church first started, but then somewhere along the line, they got sidetracked.
They got
They forgot we wasn't never supposed to believe that dogma.
Listen, they got 501c3s and they had to follow the script of the system.
You don't follow the script, you don't pay. Hey, look, you don't pay the piper, you don't listen to the tune.
That's
So
right.
I don't care which religion it is, they all under the same banner.
True.
It's only 3 religions. Everything else is systems. Buddhism is systems. Jainism is system. The Tao is a system. All of those are systems of awakening. That's why they didn't ever want us studying that stuff. Because then we're going to see remnants of our ancient past surfacing in foreign places. Because we used to be a global civilization. To divide and conquer set again.
Right. Speaking of global, Chief, and I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but my brain, I'll forget. I want to say something and then I'll forget it. But I saw a TikTok video the other day, and I don't know if any of y'all out there have seen this. If you saw this, it was a group of, I think they were from India, Pakistan. They were about 4 or 5 men from India, Pakistan, something like this, and they appeared to be either in Mexico or at the border between Mexico and the United States. And because the voice of the person that was interviewing and the woman that was interviewing them sound, just regular American sounding. She asked them where they came from, and they said they said they had been walking, and they had been walking all day. And she said, you flew into Mexico and now you've been walking. And they said, no, we walked from where we live. She's like, well, where do you live? One guy was Pakistan, and some of them were Pakistan and some were saying India. Well, the point I want to make is they had walked from there to Mexico. They didn't get on a plane. They didn't get on a boat. They didn't say they swam across the Indian Ocean. They walked and made it into Mexico from Pakistan and India without encountering water, and walked. They walked. And they have been walking. They said, we've been walking all day. How is that possible? I mean, I know how it may be possible because I know they lied, but
I know all of the, okay, so in Tibet, you have ancient temples with portals to get back over here. And if they went through one of them portals, sometimes they look like they're walking in a cave. And when they come out the other side, they over here. But it's a portal. It's just like on Stargate when they put in the code and it's shifted to the channel in order to get you to where you're going. Mm-hmm. But the ones on Earth is preset. They in Arizona, they in Cairo, they in Tibet, Machu Picchu. It's a whole bunch of places that have these ancient portal gates, right? And most of them are militarily guarded. So whoever let them through the gate knew they was going through the gate. It's not a secret to the people that was watching the gate. They just let them go.
Well, they didn't say they went through a gate or anything. They just kept saying, "Well, we walked like we're walking."
But, okay, think about this: you walk in, you see a mountain, right? We could climb the mountain, go around the mountain, or we could go through this tunnel in the mountain. Mm-hmm. But when you go through the tunnel, you going through a Stargate. You come out the other side of the tunnel, you somewhere else on a whole nother part of the planet.
So you're saying that it's not that they're geographically closer than what we think. Although I do think things are closer geographically than we've been told. I believe the maps are distorted. I believe that they make they say it's upside down, and they try to make the United States look larger than other countries to give it some air of superiority just from a visual standpoint. So is it possible that every part of the earth, the known earth, is connected at some point, that there's the places where you don't actually have to cross water or go by air? I mean, is it possible that there's still landmass connections that we don't know about?
Well, a couple years ago in the Pacific, there was bodies of land rising from the ocean's floor. I don't know if they walked across that because if they didn't encounter no water, or they probably not telling the whole story.
You know what they look like? They just look like the guys that they've been stopping at the border. They look like that. They didn't look like they were, scientists or somebody that was, discovered a time machine or a time warp. They just look like people, and they were like, we walked. We walked, and they kept saying, you flew in and then you walked. No, we walked all the way from Pakistan to here, to Mexico.
Well, one thing about the era we in is the collective reality is shifting along with the awakening of the people, and people can go through stargates now, can pop up anywhere because we in the spiritually. The spirit realm and the physical realm is like almost the same right now. It's just subtle differences.
Yeah. The veil is very, very thin.
Did you get to look at the video I showed you of that big orange thing in the sky?
I saw a little bit of it. You said that that might be the planet Nibiru.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Planet Nibiru is our secondary sun. We in a binary star system, but most of us is unaware of it because the elliptical orbit that second sun called Nibiru, Planet X, Rilo 7, the dark star. They got a whole bunch of names for it in science, so they don't call it Nibiru. But the planet of the crossing, all those names, but it's visible. Right at the close of the age, it's 3,600-year orbit. Mm-hmm. Right, and this is the end of a 24,000-year cycle. right? So it's coming back in again at the close of the age. It's making this elliptical orbit.
So, and again, when you say elliptical orbit, are you well, maybe you have an opinion on it. You know, there's the flat earthers, it's a round, it's a globe, there's a dome over a flat earth. The earth is going, like you said, elliptically instead of the way that it's not rotate. What do you, you know, from your knowledge, from your understanding, what are we going?
I think everybody right from different perspectives.
Okay.
Because when you look at the double slit experiment, the wave collapsing into the particle, if you see the infinite plane, you're looking at the waveform of uncreated potential. But when you see it as the torus field, you're looking at the particle now, which is the differentiated matter. Right? So it went from a wave to a particle, but it's on a massive scale. What they call in the firmament, it's the Van Allen belt. That's a Pleiadian light lock to trap us all in here with the people we was fighting with. It's because the last ice age was caused by a nuclear holocaust. So the Pleiadians and Arcturians use two sciences of theirs, or conjures, or whatever you want to call it, and put us in a light lock. The light lock was only designed to last until the close of the age, when somebody gonna come out the winner at the end. The Earthborn or the ones that came. Sorry for the ones that came, but we done handed their ass to them.
So, you know, when you talk about Earthborn versus the one that came, you talk about the Dogon. The Dogon talks about the star people that came to teach them, but that's a whole
different set of people.
But they were taught. What do they believe? They were seeded, and then the ones that seeded them came back to coach them and give them knowledge of the solar system and various things that they know that shouldn't know based on who, you know, where they are technologically, allegedly, or what.
The Dogon say they come from Sirius B. You can't see Sirius B with the naked eye. The scientists thought they was what they call it in science, pontificating, making it up. Right. But when they got higher powered telescopes, and they was able to locate not only Sirius B, but also Sirius C. Right. And that's on the heels of the Orion constellation. It's called the Dog Star. And they had constant psychic communication with the people that brought him here.
Okay, that was what I was wondering. The ones that came were also the ones that seeded them or put them here originally, and then came back to along the way. They've been helping them develop or giving them knowledge.
Yeah, so they gave the Dogon the sciences that we would need at the close of the age. This is why the Dogon's sciences was only disseminated in the 1900s, but they've been had it for hundreds of years. Right? But we only get access to it as we get a certain distance from the close of the Piscean age and the dawning of the Aquarian age. And now, even Credo Mutwa, the Zulu Sanusi, a lot of his information used to only be passed down through the priests in secret. But getting close to the close of the age, he tell David Icke everything.
Oh, is that who he told? That's where David Icke got a lot of his information from.
That's one of his teachers, one of David Icke's teachers.
Ah, okay. I see.
Right. And so he able to use the information, and then he's able to find references because Credo Mutwa was able to give him such details that he can, you know, it's like going on the computer doing a keyword search. You know, it used to be the old computers. You used to be able to put a word on each side of your screen, and then it'll cross reference the two words to come up with something. They took that feature off a long time ago.
Now they got AI, and so AI can delve into a lot of spaces that you couldn't easily get to get that knowledge. I know you always have to check for errors, and sometimes it's hard to check for errors when you didn't know what it was supposed to be anyway. But
Anytime you ask AI a question, ask for the reference. He'll give them to you.
Okay.
The references. ChatGPT notorious for dropping references when you ask for them.
Okay. Yeah. Where'd you get that from?
Yeah. So if you tell him to give you references, he'll tell you books, laws, or whatever it is that you looking for the reference. The AI can go get you the reference to the material that is answering for you.
Wow. So yeah, so that's basically, like I said, dealing with some of the things that are going on now. And I'm glad you said what you said at the outset with regards to Trump, because we get those two different stories with regards to Trump. And I remember seeing a TikTok video maybe last year with one of the former Panther. Well, he's a Panther. I don't think he's a former Panther. He's one of the original Panthers, talking about how Donald Trump had supported the Panther Party and financially and morally. More. I know he lost a little street cred when he acted on that information regarding the
Central Park 5.
Central Park 5. But again, I guess he trusted the media and the stuff that was going out and didn't, do his own due diligence and so forth. But that should not erase all of the good that he did and all of the folks that, he showed up with and who used to party with him and all the rappers that loved him and all of that. And then all of a sudden, because he apparently wasn't playing the game the way they wanted it played, he couldn't. I mean, I'm sure they'd have a problem with him being a Republican versus a Democrat, but you're supposed to toe the line in either place. And I think he kind of walks in the middle. You know what I mean? He's not this, not that. He's just, on a mission, and it's not taken well by either side sometimes.
Well, the thing is, why did he pick the Republican Party? Remember, he was a Democrat in the 80s when Ronald Reagan was running for office.
I would assume it's closer to restoring the republic, at least with the name, but not necessarily that the party is synonymous with that. I don't know.
I'm gonna give you a hint. What's the symbol of the Republican Party?
You mean like the what is it? The elephant versus the yeah.
Republican Party is the elephant.
Yeah.
What did Noble Ali tell us about the elephant?
I don't know.
He said our watchdog is an elephant.
Ah, okay.
Right. It's another one he got too. But the whole thing about what's the symbol for the matriarchy? The elephant.
Oh, the elephant. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The elephant is the quintessential matriarchal clan.
The elephant is?
Yeah. Well, the male elephants don't even run with the herd. They stay off to the periphery. But the matriarch elephant can call them by stomping the ground. In the low rumbling hum, the males will come running in a rage.
Yeah. See, I'm just looking in the chat. I'm seeing where somebody's saying that he's a op. Don't trust him. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Are you talking about Trump or are you talking about Chief? I don't know who you're talking about. I'm sorry. Just clarify. Because you don't know when people put he is a very generic term.
General term, yeah. Look,
do you have
my thing with Trump?
People op or something like that, and have you ever questioned? You have to ask yourself, did I get cloned and I didn't know it, and I think I'm operating on it or doing what I'm doing out of the spirit of truth, and maybe I'm on some other tip, but I don't know it. I mean, when people have said things about me, I know who I am, and I know I don't have any. I don't think I have any chips in me. I've had a couple surgeries for things, but I wasn't as vocal back then, so I don't see any reason why I would have gotten. But you wonder how people can straight out define who somebody is and what their motivation is, just because they don't agree necessarily 100% with whatever they don't agree with about individual.
Well, my thing is this: all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Because somebody called me an op, they might be our ops.
Yeah, I don't know who they were talking about. It could be Trump, because we were talking about Trump, so it could be Trump. But yeah. So
yeah, but I had my little.
clarification. They said, I believe it's she said Trump. So okay, thank you.
Okay, so
I didn't know.
Let me give you some clarification on my position on Trump. You know that gum that be stuck to the bottom of your shoe?
Yeah.
That's that's about much as I care about Trump. It's the same about I care about that gum on the bottom of the shoe. But now, if I see him doing the work for the tribes, I'm going to tell people he's doing the work for the tribes. If I see him doing the work for foreigners, I'm going to tell the people he ain't working for us, he working for somebody else. See, it's certain stuff like Trump went and got the gold certificate from the Philippines that gave him authorization to return 650 cargo planes of gold that was held in the Vatican back to over here. Except they didn't put it in Fort Knox. They put it in Nevada in an underground bunker. Right. So the stuff that he doing is benefiting us, whether we wanted to or not. We ain't never had nobody hold that seat, including Obama, that did stuff specifically to benefit us. He the only person in the history of that office that ever did anything that specifically benefit us over everybody else. Nobody else has done it. Ronald Reagan would have did it, but they had to put him on medication because George Herbert Walker Bush wanted him to appear to be incompetent, like Sleepy Joe. Mm-hmm. Right. So they told Nancy she stopped giving him these pills, he will catch another hot one.
Oh wow. So she had to keep him drugged and sort of incapacitated to save his life.
Yep. Mm-hmm. She wanted her husband. That's the only way she was allowed to keep him. And they had a nurse there too. So, I mean,
they probably
that old man Bush was the most wickedest man I can identify in the last 400 years of this history of this country.
But you know what? People don't talk a lot though about the Bush-Obama relationship that much. They don't. They're like, okay, Bush is a Republican.
They don't talk about the Bush-Clinton relationship either.
Right. You're right. But the reason why, with Obama growing up, and he was like his godfather almost. From what I've read and researched, and his father or stepfather worked for Bush in the CIA, and may have allegedly had something to do with what happened in Dealey Plaza. You know what I mean? So, he knew him. And so they made a calculated effort, and maybe because they didn't think that people that look like us would have voted for Obama as a Republican. So they groomed him to be the sort of the Messiah, so to speak, of us when it came to the office of president. And like you said, he did the most damage to be who he was. Well, he wasn't even who he was, but he did a lot of damage to us. He didn't help us. I mean, it took me to the second term to realize I didn't see the fraud, the fakery until by the time we got to the second term, then I realized, when I thought back of all these poor old grandmothers standing in line for hours to vote for him and crying. I never thought I'd live to see the day when a black man would be, and I'm thinking, you still didn't see the day. You did not see the day.
She must have never heard of Warren G. Harding. He had to hide his dark-skinned sister so they wouldn't know he wasn't pale-faced.
Mm.
The whole political circus is predicated up on being able to successfully pass as another race with your drop of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the same with Hollywood. Like, the Duke, John Wayne, was passing.
Really?
Marilyn Monroe was passing. They figured out Jane Mansfield was passing and they decapitated her.
Is that why she got killed in that car accident?
Decapitated her. She come from a powerful bloodline and they didn't want her to reveal her true ethnicity to the world. So they had to get rid of her.
Now her daughter became I forget her name. She's an actress, very, very well-known actress. These things played in one of those doctor series. I'm trying to think of her name, but she has a daughter that's her bloodline continued.
Liz Taylor was passing. Elvis was passing. His mama was an octoroon.
Mm.
I mean, I can keep. J. Edgar Hoover was passing.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. Yeah, 2 times. He was passing in 2 ways.
Yeah, he was passing for a man and passing for a heroin at that.
Yes,
but it was so many people. See, the whole Hollywood thing of the era, because you gotta remember, Oscar was a brother.
Yeah, actor is a Demis. What was his name? I know it was a brother that they named the Oscar after.
And the reason why the Oscar looks like Ty is the guy that's supposed to form man from the clay on the potter's wheel.
Ty?
The eugenic Ty, Ptah.
Oh, like Ptah, like, okay, all right.
Right. So he was the fashioner. The American struggle was to give some people that was denied ascension rights the right to ascend. Because they was genetically manipulated. And the only remedy was a drop of original blood. And that's why I look like you got pale-faced Chinese, pale-faced Japanese, pale-faced Hindus. That's because all of the royal families of the planet had to give up a drop of blood. And then we had some come from other places to give a drop of blood.
What was this blood given like to some DNA pool, like like the Noah's Ark that had?
No, it was sexual amalgamation.
So meaning you had to get with somebody of the Caucasian,
right?
Caucasian, so that
and that's why they gave the pale face the run of the family farm that they called the plantation to do what he want with any other women. Because they had to get their drop of blood, and because of what was done to them, they did everything that was did to us was done to them first.
That's interesting.
From the lynching to the barbecuing them to the people in Europe was eating them. They was the same as cattle. We call them people. I don't know if I don't want to get a strike on your channel, but the little hat people.
Okay.
Right? The Zionists.
Yeah.
They cannibals. Wow. Vlad the Impaler was not no pale face.
Okay. He was from that lineage that you're talking about.
Yeah. So they was eating them people. They was doing all kind of stuff to them, using their kids for sex toys and adrenalized blood from them. They was doing all that over in Europe. That's why they got kicked out. You don't kick out a civilizer and still be uncivilized. Because when they got to China and Japan, they had to teach them how to wipe their behind and take a bath. Just like when they came over here, they had to learn how to wipe their behind and take a bath. They didn't know none of that stuff over there. And they were supposed to be being civilized. Somebody not doing a good job as a civilizer because they still uncivilized.
Yeah.
Don't know nothing about no seasoning in the food. To this day, we still be talking about who cooked it. Because it ain't got no seasoning in it. So who put raisins in potato salad? right? And you know, they cornbread and goulash. It's a side. It's don't go in it. It's a side dish. You know, you don't serve them. And I mean, some of the stuff that they cook shows that they didn't have any culinary capability. That means whoever they civilizer was did a piss poor job. And then they being expelled from Europe coincide with the arrival of Columbus in America. That's not no coincidence. That's not no accident.
So you're saying that was because they were kicked out?
Yeah, because they wasn't civilizing nobody. They was exploiting everybody, but they wasn't civilizing nobody.
Well, if you're not civilized, if you're uncivilized, you can't civilize anybody. I mean, what you can't teach somebody something.
Well, somebody said that they was over there from 711 to 1494 civilizing Europe, but Europe still wasn't civilized. So if in all of them years, what, 700 years, and they still not civilized, you don't know what the hell you doing. Or you deliberately not doing what you claiming you doing.
Yeah, so when they develop, you know, what our topic is, systems, would you say that these systems they didn't develop them at all, that these were handed down to them from could it be some extraterrestrial or interdimensional hierarchy that was running things behind the scenes and giving them a playbook, so to speak, of how to become a controlling force? Because like you said, they were uncivilized. So how do you even become the so-called mighty power that they purport to be, that they've written into history? And even when you when you answer that, talk about the alleged 297 or so interjected years that they put in so that they could fit in to history.
Well, they didn't switch the calendar so much. I don't know how many years they done added or took away. We done been under the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar, and all these other calendars too. So I don't know exactly how many years has been scrambled in the mix, but I do know this. In years gone by, there used to be something called the Ancient Code of Kings. The Ancient Code of Kings was an instructional manual given to the kings by the ones who call themselves the gods. And the Ancient Code of Kings tell you how to govern a kingdom. Then there's another book, which is a counteroffensive to that, called the Ancient Code of Thieves. Today, we know that the Ancient Code of Thieves is called Uniform Commercial Code. So they never changed anything. They just rewrote it where it looked more palatable and more uniform. The codes, the systems is designed. How do you control masses of people? You can't micromanage everybody. You don't have to if you can control the systems.
True.
Right. If you control the education, you can tell them what to think. If you control the entertainment, you can tell them how to enjoy themselves. Right. If you can enjoy their labor, you can adjust their income where they won't rebel against the oppression. Like, no matter how rich you get, you got what's called a two-part siphoning method. On one side, you got fractional reserve banking that gives you something called inflation. Inflation creates something, it creates a loss of value to the underlying currency, right? That's fractional reserve banking. And then on the other end, they have something called taxation. Now remember, the so-called Civil War was supposed to be a rebellion about a 2% tax on tea.
True.
But the people that was at the Boston Tea Party was dressed up like us, but they wasn't us. They didn't even tell you that in the news reports of the era. People masquerading as Indians came, So, I mean, their systems is critical for controlling masses of people. The most effective one is religion. Because as long as they hide the inner God by telling you to look outside yourself for him, they got you.
True.
You can't never use your own personal power and volition because you trapped in this system of dogmatic philosophical BS. They run this stuff by you, they steal your history, then they repurpose it. Like all these Christians sweeping down Jesus coming back. Ain't no Jesus coming because Jesus is ISIS. ISIS might come back, but Jesus ain't never gonna get here. So as long as you waiting on Jesus, you got a long wait. But if you realize that ISIS only comes at the close of the age to set the record straight. Okay, why are they concealing this? Right? They're not telling us the truth about the oracles of the Delphi. They're not telling us about Vatican. Man, we don't know the Vatican is named after a goddess.
No, I didn't know that.
Right? They don't tell us about the daughters of Isis. But they don't want us to know about the divine feminine because the divine feminine is the first heirs of Earth. It's the oldest contract of the Earth to determine its gender is feminine. We don't call this Father Earth. We call it Mother Earth for a reason. Right? And that's the oldest contract. The one that can figure out how the grandfather clause, the grandmother clause is going to be the one that's going to figure it all out. That's the oldest. Ain't nobody never overturned that. Well, Intl tried, but he lost.
And how about, is that tied into the Sibyls and all that?
Yeah, those were all priestesses of the Great Mother. So she leave priesthoods behind. All these male priests dressed in them dresses, they dressed in drag. They cross-dressers. I call them consistently a cross-dressing pedophile priest cult. Homosexual pedophile priest cult. They want to sodomize the boys so they can't never resist them when they become men. They want to feminize them, right? And as far as the ancient record tell, once a male is sodomized, he ain't fit to be king. Because soon as he come online, he gonna have schizophrenia. So they give us these systems as crowd control. And the most effective two systems is religion and divide and conquer. Divide and conquer is a strategy that tells them how to use division in all areas of people activity. This is why they, like, all of the big mamas on the land used to have their own banks. You know what they call them today? Plantation banks. We believe in that the plantation bank was somebody foreigner's bank. That was the bank for big mama of that house. But they had to close all of their plantation banks, so they turned to loose economic hitmen to rob them, so they can institute a central banking system. The same people that was protesting the central banking system in the colonial period is the same people who instituted the central banking system in the colonial period.
Okay, so they robbed the big mamas, like I said, bank, and they killed. And I mean, even you look at the scripture in Proverbs 31 when it talks about the who can find a virtuous woman. I always like to use that scripture to talk about the fact that if you really read it, everything it says that the wife does, she's running stuff. I mean, she's getting up, she's taking care of property, she's buying the land, she's making sure everybody gets fed, and she's doing this, she's doing that, she's doing that. And he's down at the gate with the other brothers, talking about what a good woman I got. But she's running stuff that, not like she was being forced to, but she had more wherewithal to run things than apparently the husband.
So, like, let's go back to Kemet, because people love to go to Kemet because they think that's the only civilized culture we ever developed. But that was Johnny come lately. Atlantis was millions of years old when that was created. But the Pharaoh, everybody think the man was the Pharaoh. But the word is identifying the woman of the house as the light of the house. Can't no man be Pharaoh. But I let them go ahead with their narrative to push their patriarchal agenda, because most people don't understand. This is why all of those women that back the Pharaoh is prominent in all of the paintings and carvings. They was really the power behind the man that sits on the throne. They could have grabbed a peasant to do his job. His job was to follow instructions from the lady of the house. The word Pharaoh literally means she who lights the house. And most of us, we believe what the interlopers told us. They only focus on the male pharaohs. That's why they kept it in the family. That's why they was intermarrying in the family, is for power. Right? But all of our moral code is derived from people that have no morals. So we don't know what they was doing. We just look at them, turn our nose up and roll our eyes and tell them about them some nasty people. We don't know what they was doing. But if they was that high level of civilization, they had to know what they was doing. They understood genetics because they wrote about it. They wrote about breeding programs and different species being created. They tell the story of when they went to Europe and pulled something from out of the mountains and brought it back, that the Queen Mother said, "What manner of beast is this?" Oh, that's in the writings over there. They told them to do genetic testing and come back and tell them what it was. So they did genetic testing. They said, this is a human. As far as the genetics say. But the muscle tone is all wrong. The fat to muscle ratio is off. The ability to lactate is void. So this is why they give you the story of Romulus and Remus suckling a wolf.
Why?
Because they couldn't lactate. So they had to use the wolf with the canine to suckle the babies. Some of them use goats. Wasn't no cows yet.
They had made them, right?
They hadn't made them yet. There wasn't no cows yet. So they was suckling sheep, goats, and dogs. The cat was too little, couldn't produce enough milk for, But when we looking at this stuff 1,000 years, 1,500, 2,000, 5,000 years later, we don't see it the way that they seen it in the contemporary time that it was taking place. And this is how a lot is lost with the time that goes by. Bits and pieces of information fall off and the stories become refined mythology. The mythology got more truth in it than the religious text. That's the sad part.
Yeah. Now when you're older, you go back and look at this Jack and the Beanstalk and, talk about Jack the Giant Killer, but we thought it was mythology, but there were giants and, there were giants in the land.
It still is. You ain't seen the NBA? You can't tell me Shaq ain't no giant. You can't tell me Manute Bol ain't no giant. You can't tell me that Vlade Divac ain't no giant. Akeem Olajuwon, them giants. That was common in Mississippi culture, though. And that's why they tell you right now they got a whole bunch of giants they found out in the Southwest. We've been here. Some of us got giants in our bloodline. We gotta remember the average size of most humans in the 1800s was approximately 5'3", the median height. To see somebody over 6 feet, he was huge. Let alone 6 feet and 200 pounds. That was a colossus. But now when you go back further into antiquity, you find that they was bigger. But it's just like with your Cadillac. It started off as huge. But as the upgrades came in, they downsized the vehicle. It's the same thing that they're doing with us genetically. When the DNA upgrade, we don't have to be 50 foot tall no more. Because we don't have 13 strands of DNA because we don't need them no more. So they refined it down to 2 strands. Where all of the same information is accessible. It's just that it requires more discipline to access it than it did when it was 12 strands.
So when they're doing these upgrades and so forth, it's having anything to do with the fact that when babies are born, they're always taking they're taking blood samples from the foot. Why are they doing that? And why don't they tell you?
They don't have to. Yeah, they don't want you to know because controlling information. That's controlling information. But the sun and the earth gonna change the DNA anyway. The sun and the earth, the solar flares and human resonance is gonna correct all of theirs in the DNA. The only reason we having birth defects is because some people are too powerful to come in normal. So you got to give them a restricted body so they don't throw the whole system out of whack. And that was all programmed in the laboratory. So when the powerful ones come in, they automatically activate the defects, especially ones they call muscular dystrophy and cerebral palsy. The babies born hydrocephalia, they were supposed to have a bigger brain than the rest of us. The problem is that the genetic alterations in the laboratory caused it to retain too much fluid, which suppresses the growth of the brain, and then it causes them to have all kind of problems.
Wow. So back to system. So we talked about religion, the system of, I want to talk about war because, there's a lot of stuff going on. I hear differing factions. I know there's a difference between the so-called Jewish people who are being persecuted, the average everyday people, and the ones running stuff. A lot of times the people in these various countries I find may be innocent, but there's always some regime, some power that's over the people that are the monsters. And so, and it's the same for here, I think, with us. I mean, we could be targets of craziness just because of the fact that, the U.S. government is a part of a system of control and maybe Kabbalistic and, the C word, not the K Kabul. And in the sense that, they are, economic hitmen running all around the world, just enslaving and taking from people's, resources and so forth. So we become targets because we are the people that live here. And how do we separate ourselves when shit hits the fan, like the people in, say, Israel that are, they're not all bad, but maybe Netanyahu's not, it's for stuff like that.
Well, the problem is that the unseen hand never wanted to be seen. So the one that's pulling the strings in America, the Vatican, and London, and Israel, and wherever else you want to go, where people being exploited, it's the same person, same people.
Right.
Right. But they don't show themselves. They just show you the people they want you to attack when you realize you want your stuff back. Right. Like Netanyahu's the biggest puppet on the planet. Even though I can't stand him and that he better not be within 3 feet of me, I'm gonna turn his spit red out the gate. but he's still being controlled. All of the so-called terrorist groups was created by the United States, England, and Israel, especially since 1948. I don't care if it's the PLO or Yasser Arafat, they was created by the CIA. If it was Hamas, Hamas was created by the Mossad. You know, so and we can go down the list. ISIS was created by the CIA. ISIS was created by the CIA with a different agenda, though. ISIS was supposed to make us hate the word ISIS like we hate the word gang. ISIS is the mother of the that owns the sacerdotal seat. So as long as we looking at ISIS as being evil and villainous, then we'll be resistant to the return of the Great Mother. It's like warfare is, according to Sun Tzu, warfare is based on deception. That means at the beginning of the war, you already planning to deceive. Carver and Clausewitz say that all war is a political act of violence. It's the same as politics, but it's used bullets to enforce the political will. So when we're looking at what we up against versus who's pulling the strings, you don't got to see them. All you got to do is realize that they've been tricking us, and the method of trickery they're using will break the spell up off of you. Because they're using conjure magic, mass hypnosis. The greatest hypnotic spell they ever put us on was the We From Africa hypnosis. If you get them to say it long enough, you might be able to convince them. They had 200 years to convince us that we ain't from where we from and we from somewhere else. But that's a leverage narrative, to leverage you to never assert your proper claim as sui juris, to exercise your territorial jurisdiction over the land. They got subject matter jurisdiction because that's their paperwork. They got copyrights on every piece of paper you file in the court, from written notices. They all of that is their intellectual property. And they allow you to use it. As long as you're using their intellectual property, they got control of your intellect. So we use the oral tradition based on ancient Kemetic science of the Husia, authoritative utterance with the exceptional insight. We ain't got to write nothing down. We just tell you what it is. But now everybody is so dependent on the written word that the oral tradition is falling out of favor with the people who've been living by the oral tradition for millions of years. Nice kind game, but it don't work on me.
Wow. So they are, we know that they the same entity, you know, I call it the triangulation, you know, when you talk about the Vatican, London, and the US. And when we talked earlier about the 200-year conjure, are they were they a part of that? And could you kind of go into a little bit more detail about what we talked about today with what?
So,
yeah.
Look, when you do blood magic on a mass scale, you need what's called first blood. This is why they can't never let us forget Crispus Attucks was the first to die in the American Revolution. Right? Because his blood is first blood. The contract had to be written in his blood in order for it to have effect. Because it's written in a book, the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain. Right? So when you go to the George Washington Masonic Memorial Museum, you see a constitution, but it's written in fading letters. The letters look kind of like rust. That's blood. Right? I got a book over there on blood magic to tell you exactly how it worked. Right? And that they was using it in politics. When you sign with red ink, that's symbolic to signing it in blood.
Okay.
Right, because the blood is the key to the rights. Because you got to have the blood, the right, and the wherewithal to use both of them to your advantage. So to identify Crispus Attucks as the first to fall in the American Revolution, they telling us who blood they wrote the contract in without telling us that they wrote the blood in his contract, the contract in his blood. Right? Then they tell us he was a mixed blood. No, he wasn't. His mom and his daddy was tribes from over here. Right? But they want us to believe he was from Africa so that they can continue the slave narrative and pushing us off our land by disassociating us from the land. That's why the paper genocide was at play. Right? Where they reclassified us on paper. That's their intellectual property. That don't mean we got to believe they BS. That's their intellectual property. They got a right to do what they intellectual. They can remix it if they want to. We just can't fall for their remix. We got to have more passion for the original than the remix. It's just like now some people make a song, they be a remake of somebody else's song. That's a good song, but it ain't good as the original. It's the same principle. They use sharecropping agreements to muscle us off the land. Then they use the same sharecropping agreements to steal our intellectual property in Hollywood, in New York, with music and movies. The 360 deal is a sharecropping agreement.
So
everything.
You keep applying it to different. Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't never change AMO. That's why it's so easy to track them. Everything they do, they use the same MO. Good cop, bad cop, Mutt and Jeff routine. First, they gonna send some guy in. He the clergy. He supposed to be all nice, sweet, and holier than thou, but he the most wicked out of all of them. Then they gonna send the a-hole in there with the bad attitude. He the best one of the two. You don't want to talk to him because you don't like his attitude, so you want to talk to the one with the pleasing personality. That's the snake of all snakes, the grand dragon.
Some people might be wondering about what contract you're talking about when you said, the contract was written in Crispus Attucks' blood.
The Constitution, the secondary Constitution. Everybody knows it's two constitutions. The second one was written in the blood of Crispus Attucks, and it's on file. You can pull it up, George Washington Masonic Memorial Museum, Constitution, and it'll show you the book. It's not written in black ink. That's why it's fading, because the contract only can last for so long. When the blood fades, it loses its strength.
And this was to perform a conjure, which they put us under.
A mass conjure.
A mass conjure. So it's about to expire if calculations are correct. Some say
it expired in 2012.
But it seems like nobody knows that it's expired. I mean, that coincide with the Mayan calendar and all of that stuff, or was that just coincidental? Because
so it was supposed to. If we would have stuck to the original program, it would have ended in 1976. Okay. The problem is they didn't ever stop attacking us when we were supposed to educate ourselves above the condition. So when in the war 1812, we took them right back to war. That gave them an extension. It reset the clock 200-year rule, which lasted into 2012. But the problem is it still take what they call dissipation time. The dissipation time is once the spell is broke, for people to come from up under the slumber, it's a grace period of time that it takes. Right. So you still have markers that they giving you in the form of legislation or what they call world order coding, like Agenda 2025, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2040, all that. Them agendas is just, if the contract don't, if we don't wake up from under the contract, this is what we gonna do next.
They're gonna extend it more, yeah, do more damage,
Yeah.
do more harm.
Yeah. But sad for them, everything they thought they was getting away with, they got trapped. See, where they made their biggest mistake, George Herbert Walker Bush had a Senate Select Committee. William Cooper talked about this in Behold a Pale Horse, where he declared himself King George, the first of the United States of America. That means that when Bill Clinton was in there 2 terms, G. Dummy was in there 2 terms, and Obama was in there 2 terms, he was still the president. They was just sitting in. Yeah, they was sitting in as his assets.
Well, didn't that happen with Biden? Wasn't Obama pulling the strings behind the scenes?
Biden been gone. That was all central casting in order to give us enough time to wake up enough people in order to break free from the slumber. Wasn't enough of us waking up, so they had to get more time. So they put the Biden administration in between the 2 Trump administrations. This is it for the corporate America. It's gone. I'm just waiting them to start arresting these crooked ass judges and lawyers, because they the ones who has been doing all of the writing of how to steal our stuff. And they was told to do it by King George in Savannah, Georgia in the 1800s. In the first charter of the bar, he said, take everything from them using the law. So they used the law. Squatter right. They used salvage rights. The salvage rights came from the wreck of the Plymouth when they took us to the World Court and said we crashed our landmass into their ship. But they don't tell the populace. So the ones who figure it out, they got to leave you a code. Malcolm said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
That's why.
What are you talking about? The Mayflower is the good ship Plymouth. The first place it docked, there's a rock there called the Plymouth Rock. That's the memorial of where the Plymouth ran ashore. We don't know what none of that stuff means because we don't understand that they talking to each other in Masonic code, especially the Scottish Rite. They was the main ones that was involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that's how we get to figure out all kinfolk, all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
So I want to read something about what you just said, about they didn't land on us, they landed on them. And so it's talking about, it said here, like what that possibly might mean from a metaphorical type, that our land was conscious, not merely territory, but a living spiritual force. It was not discovered. It revealed itself and initiated karmic consequences. That their ship was already doomed, spiritually speaking. Reading this, the arrival of colonizers was not an act of destiny, but of disruption, and the land responded accordingly. Wreck as a metaphor, it wasn't that the land caused a literal shipwreck, but that the presence of something so spiritually misaligned with land, imperialism, conquest, greed, was destined to spiritually wreck the invaders, no matter how grand their plans.
And so we get the authorization to colonize us from the Pope through unum sanctums and papal bulls.
Right.
In the papal bull, he declared all the people of the earth imbeciles, incompetent, and therefore he gonna handle all of our affairs on our behalf, whether we want him to or not. Who gave that sucker that kind of power?
He took it.
Well, he didn't. He's a puppet too. That's the part it's not clicking. But when you see them people who feed he kissing, then it'll start to make sense who put him in power. They look like us. They ain't us. They don't even look like us to me, but to some of us and the people that don't look like us, we all look alike.
Right.
But I could spot them. I could spot their behavior. They got a characteristic behavior pattern. They always starting stuff when we get together to congregate for peaceful purposes. They come in and want to rustle up some BS. They shit starters everywhere they go. They can't help it. It's their nature.
Yeah.
They can't stand to see two peaceful people having a peaceful conversation, getting along, and they don't interrupt you with some shenanigans.
Well, that's their job. That's their job. Let me see. Washington. Somebody said Washington is empty. Let's see.
Look, it's a lady on YouTube named Andrew, been filming it for the last 6-7 years. Showing all the buildings. Some of the buildings is just like ghost towns. They got fences around other buildings. Some buildings just not even being used. The United States Treasury moved. It's not even in DC no more, the headquarters. They got a satellite office still there, but the main headquarters is right outside Reno, Nevada now, on a native base, on a native reservation.
So what are the so-called, all of these senators and Congress people, what are they doing as far as when, they're allegedly not home, they're up in DC? Where are they? What they doing? Because I got somebody here.
They having orgies.
Look, I'm going to say, I know somebody here who's our so-called senator. And I wonder, what I've heard that's going on there, when she goes off there, where the heck is she going? Or do they, is there some kind of do they just kind of sit around and go, okay, meanwhile, what we do next? But they're not really doing anything. Now you see these congressional hearings every now and then. They're speaking of congressional hearings. There's one that went on in the last few days or a couple of weeks. I don't know what it is, but they've been showing it a lot about the COVID shots and the damage of 76% of those people who were unalive had been vaccinated, and now they're holding hearings somewhere. I mean, it's supposed to be Senate, Congress, whatever. But where do they go? Where are they going since everything is?
Since you brought that up, go back to the Senate hearings that they invited Jeff Fort to and look at the building, and then look at the building they having them in. Now, it's not the same building.
Jeff Fort, the one that you've been talking.
Yeah. See, they called him down there because they gave him grant money. And he was the first person that they ever had a congressional hearing to determine what you do with the grant money we gave you. So he came in, he gave his name, he got up and left. But they didn't like that too well, so they decided to railroad him into prison. Right? Go look at the Iran-Contra hearings. That's not the same building. So wherever they at, it's a studio.
Really?
The real House Senate building is a vaulted ceiling. These ceilings is low. Right? And it's set up different. Right? They got a spot for the Speaker of the House. And then they got a seat on each side of the speaker. And then the rest of the Congress sit around them. It's modeled after the Unity Hall in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we were there with with Empress.
Yeah. That was the Capitol until they rolled out contract for the Crispus Attucks situation. They had to move the Capitol because the tribe, one of the elders, put a curse on the building. They thought it like they had hot sauce on their ass.
when we went, Empress sat in that high seat, and they like to had a triple conniption.
That was taking back the power.
Mm.
That was Big Mama sitting on Big Mama's seat, and they didn't like it, but it wasn't nothing they could do about it because they already know who we are.
Mm.
Right. So if you remember when you was there, it was a lady in the other room. She was recalling the curse that was put on the place, and she was telling you don't be nothing in the history books. They're all lies. Right. She was the closest blood relative to the one who put the original curse on the building. So when Empress sit in the seat, she had to unlock the curse in order to take back the power. And that wasn't planned. She said she didn't even know she was going to do that when she was going. She was just following what she felt.
Yeah. She ruffled their feathers. She ruffled their feathers. Yes. Let me see what they're saying about here. I just okay. Very strange things happen in Philadelphia. Oh, wow. That belief for a situation bringing the eagle too. I'm just trying to see if there's anything, if anybody was asking any particular questions. Oh damn, that got her response was funny.
The courts have nothing to do with us, by the way.
Say what?
Somebody asked a question about the courts. The courts have nothing to do with us. And the way that you know the courts don't have nothing to do with us is it's a matter between barristers. The judge a barrister, the prosecutor a barrister, the attorney's a barrister. They all barristers. You're the only one not a barrister. So what do you have to do with barristers' business? They tricking us.
But jurisdictionally, if we haven't done certain things to declare our status or correct our status, then we are in.
They don't even acknowledge us correcting our status in their system.
No, they don't.
They will only acknowledge certain people because they come from a certain bloodline. They know who we all are. So certain people will get relief, but the majority won't. Where's the rise of the Moors? Is they still locked up? They was right. Exercising what they call a constitutional right to form a well-armed militia. Also, the right to bear arms. Constitutionally, they was correct. But they still charging them with criminal behavior for following the Constitution. So either the Constitution means something or it don't, or it only means something for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have nothing to do with us. They, of course, have nothing to do with us. They got us in there. All we is to them is a thumb drive full of data. We just another file that they're using to shuffle around across the tables. Where they come from?
Who? They who?
The courts. Where they come from? We got tribal courts still operating on the land that's autonomous of their systems. But they ignore our tribal courts in order for them to push their artificial constitutional color of law de facto system on us.
Because those are
they
banks,
are foreign body politic.
That's how they extract the fiat, the finance, and so forth from us, with these contracts and these bonds and all of these various things that they get to, go into, our trust and take our, plus take whatever else they want from, family. It impacts family or so-called family, kinfolk, because when they, when you got to pay for phone calls and commissary and this, that, and the third, and putting people, paying bail and bond and all these things, it doesn't just affect the one that they have kidnapped. It's it affects.
We haven't even noticed that they make us pay to be their slave.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that. If you go to the county jail, most of these sheriffs, they don't feed you worth a damn, right? But you haven't been convicted. But under their system, they swear that you innocent until you proven guilty, but they treat you like you guilty.
True.
Because in their system, you automatically guilty regardless of what they say out their mouth. They all are acting under the color of law. Colorable law. Using color as the code. They de facto. They don't belong here. But as long as we go along to get along and we don't say nothing, they'll stay as long as they want to. When we get fed up and recognize what's taking place, the police is a foreign military that's occupying the territory. The police charters trace straight back to London. Then they separate the names, like the word police is owned by the Fraternal Order of Police, right? But in Europe, they call them something else. But they the same thing, sister lodges. Over here, I'm talking about the organization that owned the title police over there. Okay, now, over here, the pirates is called Skull and Bones, but over there, they called the Scroll and Key. Same thing, pirates. All they doing is coming to suck our blood. Vampires.
Vampire.
And we wore wolves. That's that movie, Underworld. You ever see that?
Underworld.
So that this lady that was a vampire, and she was fighting to. Then eventually they came out with a hybrid vampire werewolf that was supposed to lead both sides. It's all about that drop of blood. It's called Underworld. It's like three part movie.
Now look, I don't know. I'm not aware of that, but somebody said it was awesome. Underworld. I've got to look. I've got one of those streaming things to look for it.
Look, if you go back to Twilight, the tribes turned into wolves.
Okay.
But the colonizers, they was vampires. They glistened in the sun.
Are we talking about the real ones?
That's
we talking
You're talking about the movie Twilight.
Okay.
So now, the question is, why are they glistening in the sun? But they pale face. Because they are expressing something called prismatic melanin. Right. So the prismatic melanin reflect in the sun, but pale skin don't.
Okay. So why?
But they was telling you, they was just using that as a like a representation of who the people was that came over here versus who they was fighting.
Okay.
They call the werewolves lichens. They say they look like kin, but they not.
Yeah, somebody put the lichens in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. They look like kin, but they not.
And what was the other guy's name that played the vampire? Wesley Snipes. Didn't he?
Blade.
Blade. Wasn't he a vampire or something?
Yeah, he was what you call a daywalker, a vampire that could tolerate the sun.
Okay. Because they had the protection of the melanin. But you know what blew my mind today when we were talking, and I didn't realize it. Maybe other people realized. I didn't. So it's like I was today years old when I found out, that this brother had been in prison. Larry Hoover had been in prison for 52 years.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a lifetime for some folks, for some people. But
you got people that died natural causes before they even turned 50.
Right. So he has been in the belly of the beast or whatever for 52 years. And then you told me he's in an admin max, which grossly restricts his ability.
Colorado for like 20-some years.
Wow. So no family,
Look,
no.
only like a handful of family members can visit him, and they got to be the same people on the list. And it's up to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, if he can change the visitors on this. He got grandkids he ain't never seen in person. He talked to them on the phone briefly, but he have never seen them in person. Let that man go. You just turn his life upside down on your war strategy. It's like most of us don't know that these people that we talk about, Jeff Ford, Larry Hoover, Tookie, Geronimo Pratt, Fred Hampton, H. Rap Brown, they all was targets of COINTELPRO. Stokely Carmichael, and I can just go down that George Jackson. I can go down that list for hours. And they had 400 names on the COINTELPRO list in just Chicago alone. So imagine how many they had in New York, Louisiana, Miami, Baltimore, LA, San Francisco, Oklahoma City, all over the country. They was looking for one of us that would be able to galvanize the people to stand up against the artificial system. They didn't never want us to come from under this condition. And they thought that they had us. They thought that we was gonna never figure it out.
Wow.
Martin Luther King had to do a nonviolent protest because he didn't want them son bitches getting another extension.
So yep, they said, they targeted, like I said, they didn't want to. Hoover said no messiahs, right? Less than the Messiah rise up in their community. So what do they have in common? Their leadership ability, the ability to, charismatic leadership. They were able to have influence over, the communities that they not they, but the so-called government had disenfranchised, and they did have the potential to organize, significant militant, or as they say, political resistance, and they were all against that. But they really wanted to uplift and awaken the people. That's what we want to do, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's why they were,
Well, if you understand COINTELPRO, it'll explain to you why all of those guys was locked up. They didn't even count the ones they didn't killed with the heart attack gun, like Dale Jones. We think he just died of natural causes. He ain't died no damn natural causes. It's a lot of them that we think died of natural causes that didn't. And then when they really get mad, they send one of their minions to shoot your mama in the face because you was too effective. In church, on the front pew.
Are we talking about Martin Luther King's mother?
Yeah. We forget that he was one of them people that look like us that ain't us. Call themselves a Hebrew Israelite or a Jew.
We talking about Martin now, right?
Yeah, Martin Mama.
Michael King.
Well, if he changed his name, I'm gonna go with the changed name because that's what he want to be referred to as. But the point being is, they hated him so bad that they killed his mama. And they had to come out of hiding to do that.
Yeah.
So you can see they look like us, but they ain't us. Everybody keep thinking pale faces went up in Emmett Till people's house and got him. It wasn't no pale faces went in there and got him.
They look like us. They took him out there.
They didn't even show it in the movie. But in the movie, they mix them up where there's some pale faces and dark skins in there. But when the original story came out, they said that the brothers came and got him so that the Klan wouldn't burn their town down. That's BS. He was going to be Chief Littlehorn, and he was going to call us to war, and that's what the problem was. He wasn't whistling at that woman. He was whistling Dixie, as they call it. Old war cry from the minstrels. They killed his daddy too, but we don't know nothing about that part.
Really? Look, afterwards.
Before.
Oh.
That's how he even ended up down there. His daddy was already gone. They killed him in the military. He was gonna be Chief Bighorn. We don't know our culture, so we don't know who these people are. And then if I call them by their tribal, the name that they would eventually adopt as a tribal chief, we won't recognize the name because they never got to the point of self-realization to name themselves. What did Bob Marley say every time he planted a seed? Sheriff John Brown say, kill it before it grow. Ain't gonna let you, if they can stop you, they're gonna stop you before you can be effective. We've been at war for 500 years. It's just that now we've been so conditioned to the conditions of the warfare that we forgot what it was like to be truly free, living on the fat of the land.
Wow. Well, I mean, their systems are designed to, just totally, like you said, to take away the power of unity from us. When like they say, I mean, it's very, very, basic, but where there's unity, there's definitely strength. And if you can have people, pulled in different directions, and it's not all from the same reason, for the same reason. I mean, there's so many distractions out there, and so many different agendas that people are following that we can't come together as a cohesive force. And they're still doing what they want to do in terms of that. And as long as we got the church versus the saved so-called versus the so-called unsaved, and the higher ups, or the so-called black middle class, and then but everybody's I think that stuff is kind of coming all down to the same thing. Everybody's complaining about the cost of this, that, and the third, because now they don't care. Everybody's being thrown to the wolves. But I'm saying there's so many things. And how, Chief, do we begin to bring the focus to a unified point? Like we're all looking at the same thing. What can we agree on? What should we be agreeing on?
The only thing we need, I don't know if we need to all agree, because everybody's not going to always agree on everything. But what we need to understand is that the corporation that's masquerading as our government is a fraud. That one thing alone, it gives us support from every community across the land, from pale faces to Hispanics to the original people of the land to the African immigrants. Right? Once we understand that it's a constructed fraud, then we're in a position to begin to see the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they don't keep us divided, that's the number one tool. Matter of fact, on your AI, ask them, how much do the FBI spend on confidential informants every year?
I heard they spend millions. I don't know. Yeah.
You think about how many people that is, and there's averaging $100,000, close to $100,000 per informant. That's a pretty lucrative job.
Let me see if I can find out. You mean like individual or just overall per cap? Yeah.
Per cap, annually, how much did the FBI spend on confidential informants?
I don't know. Oh, wow. So I don't know what they spending now, but it looks like, oh wow. So back in 2012 to 2018, they spent an average of $42 million a year. on confidential human sources. That's what they're called now, CHS.
That's just the FBI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now this year it says for 2025 they requested 11.3 billion in direct budget authority. So I don't know how much of that would be going to, paying that, but paying confidential.
Look, we all seen them, but we didn't know we was looking at. The guy that hang out with all the drug dealers don't sell no dope, but he balling just like them.
Mm-hmm.
He know them all. He don't never get arrested. He don't never sell no dope, but he hang out with all the drug dealers and keep a wad of money in his pocket. They call it petty cash.
Yeah.
Why do they need to spend that much on informants if they investigators? They supposed to investigate, right, and find the answer. They don't know nothing unless somebody tell them. They know where all the dope go because they bring it here. They know who they gave it to.
Mm-hmm.
The same original investigator from the Biggie murder, Russell Poole, was the same one whistleblower that told when Ricky Ross got arrested that Ricky Ross was getting drugs from the government. He wasn't never supposed to go to jail because the government created the crime and punished him for it. Anybody with a dope case, they co-defendant is the government. Especially when it was cocaine in the 80s and 90s, because they was the ones bringing it in.
And yeah, because they're like, we don't have no planes, no ships, then you had during the war, you had, my understanding is that there were a lot of bodies coming into Dover Air Force Base that had packages with them.
That was during Vietnam when they was bringing heroin in.
Yeah.
Then they switched from heroin to cocaine because the old man Bush had oil tankers that wasn't subject to search. But William Cooper go over that information in Behold the Pale Horse too.
I'm had to.
He used the same cover story of an oil tycoon to oversee the assassination of JFK.
The cover story?
Yeah. It's in the CIA, it's called a cutout. That's how he got to the top of the CIA, got to be the director. Right. Thanks to LBJ.
And LBJ
knew that
went from vice president to president after he was
right. Yeah. Because that's the only way he was going to get the office Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he called one of his assets in, which was the grandson or son of Prescott Bush, who come from a banking family.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff is, they already didn't track them. All of the illicit wealth for the last 50 years has been being tracked. Wall Street got caught, like everybody think Wall Street trading, it's all phantom trading right now. They just moving numbers. Because they already been caught laundering over $1 trillion in human trafficking money, illegal money, and illegal drug money. $1 trillion in each. That's a whole lot of money. And they know who got the money, where it went, and how they got it. You thinking they working in hundreds of billions of dollars? Those are electronic transfers. Yeah. That ain't no cash.
Well, what about the ships that were going out before 9/11, allegedly in the dead of night, from the harbor there?
I'm not familiar with the ships. I do know that they had vans that was collecting the gold that was on reserve in the World Trade Center. Leading up to the.
Yeah. So you heard it was vans. I heard there were ships that were leaving, that were taking things out prior to.
Yeah, they were supposed to be dumping, trying to get rid of some of the evidence by dumping gold in the ocean. So I don't know if they did that or not, but that was one of the reports that I came across.
I'm wondering what would be the point if you dump it. If you know where you dumped it, you go back and get it later on when all the stuff is blows over, right?
Yeah.
And then you knock down a building a couple of blocks away and make sure it was probably holding records of stuff that you took out.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a
John Jr. was telling us everything in George magazine. We didn't know what he was talking about because he was talking in code.
who was now?
John Jr.
Oh, he talked about it in George.
He got the whole magazine is coded from cover to cover. He named it George because he was after George Bush.
George Bush. That's why. Oh my goodness.
The CIA the ones told him that who killed his daddy. They figured because he was a clean cut pale face that he wasn't going. They keep forgetting they Irish, and Irish is just light skinned Negroes.
Well, now there's a man that and of course Dr. Key has had him on her show. I think she has, at least she's talked to him, that says that he is the real JFK, and talks a lot about a lot of different things, including Mr. Trump not being the
I know you're talking about, but I never listened to him. I don't know. He said that he was switched with the son Aristotle Onassis when Jackie took up with him.
That's not what he says in the book. He says that one of Aristotle Onassis' son was actually murdered in his presence, but he I don't know where the boy allegedly came from that he claims, but that wasn't the real John. But he said the reason why they called him John because he was the original one. But he said he was related to Trump. And he also says that Trump was killed in a helicopter crash, with two executives on New Jersey Turnpike. And that he actually was taken by his handler to saw his body, because apparently Trump was a helicopter pilot also. I don't know if Trump still knows how to fly.
Well, I know they got more than one Trump.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm thinking those more than one has to do more with protection, but we're talking about way back whenever that crash was, that he was on that. He was piloting the plane that he had perhaps had upset some people like in the mob or something, and they kind of put something on the plane the helicopter that took it down.
If they got 3 Trumps right now, that means they used to have 4.
Okay. I get it.
And it ain't no guarantee that the one that he seen dead was the real Trump.
That's true. But he does talk about it in the book. Yeah.
I never read the book, so I don't know.
He even mentioned a little boy that was there at the same time he was. He said one day I'm going to be star. He said the boy was Denzel Washington, and he has a picture in there of them at this event. And so I was like, oh, but it almost seems like if that was true, it would almost put Denzel more into one of those MK Ultra type situations, having been groomed. But I don't know. But he says it in the book.
I'm not familiar enough with his background and story to really comment on it. I know who you're talking about. I know some of his story, but like I never read his book. I never talked to him. I don't know none of the details, but I have came across him on Dr. Key's show a couple of times, but I didn't listen to the whole, broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, so yeah. Let me make sure I want to put this up. Listen, yeah, for those of you who love to support Chief. I know we've been usually put his Cash App up, but just like us, his Cash App has been sabotaged. Something about we don't know what's up with Cash App, but seems like when we do what we do, we get targeted by them and they shut us down. So Chief has PayPal. I want you to take note of this, please. It's at 6801 and it's PayPal. We need to show our love to this man who studies and takes in all this information and takes all these hours to sit. I mean, he did a interview the other day. I think it was 4 hours. I was like, okay, he just like, so I want to make sure that I put that up so that we can literally show him how much we care. But yeah, they took our Cash App too, like almost a year ago. And I tell you, if you're waiting for them to respond by email, stop waiting, because they don't.
I'm waiting in the same way I'm waiting for anything else. If it happened, it happened.
They won't.
I don't believe nothing that anybody in this system tell me till they show me.
All right. Well, they showed us a year later. I'm still waiting for an explanation as to why they shut our Cash App down. So what did I do that was illegal? Not unless it has something to do with what we say on the show. I definitely did nothing illegal with them. So we do want to make sure.
Yeah, they've been blocking me almost 2 weeks. Cash App.
And that, yeah,
The only reason.
Yeah, somebody sent 100 notes to me after House of Real Recognize. I could think the other day. I can't even remember the sister's name, but the sister, you know who you are. It's going to come back to you because we don't have Cash. And they just hold it and then they send it back to you. I hope they send it back because it doesn't come to us. We don't get anything. So when it comes to that, we do have PayPal and Zelle, but yeah, just make sure that you don't use Chief's Cash App anymore. And I think I have the Cash App in the description, so don't pay attention to the Cash App in the description. We're now PayPal. Yeah. So, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to hold you and make you do like 4 hours. I don't. Oh, you know what? I don't have a flyer for it, y'all. But on Friday, because I've been waiting for Grand Sheik to give me the title for Friday. But we will be on Friday, Grand Sheik and I, and this Friday coming up at 7:30 Eastern. So, and I'm looking forward to when we introduce that new song, Chief.
Oh, yeah.
I think they'll like it. I think they'll like it. I like it. I got it on heavy rotation in my little playlist and so forth. They'll be singing it, I think. The ones that can. But yeah, we're gonna
I was like, I couldn't even believe who you told me was singing.
Yeah. And yeah. We're not gonna tell them, but it's catchy, isn't it?
As they used to say back in the 50s and 60s, it's groovy, baby, groovy.
It is absolutely. Shout out to brother Rod's Bristol Bay. He's the bomb, as they say, he's the bomb.com when it comes to that. So when folks hear this they hear the new song, they're gonna like, oh wow, yeah, you can. But I'm waiting because we're try to do a video intro with it, so it'll be our new intro. But Sister Cynthia said, make it short. I don't want to make it short. We'll play the whole thing. I just like the whole thing, But it's good. It's good. I'm excited. And I know they love to hear my spiritual daughter sing. But she did that song 10 years ago. It was 2015. She sang it on the phone, and we just put it up just like it was off the like the phone recording. But this is a major upgrade as far as just having I'm not going to retire her song altogether, but I think they'll like the new one. You liked it. Yeah. So but yeah, so Grand Sheik is going to be on. I just don't have a thing to put up to tell you because he didn't tell me what he wanted us to talk about, but he told me he would tell me. So sometime between now and Friday I will know, but we'll be on to talk about something. And he might even be here. So he's talking about maybe coming to Delaware. So He might even be sitting beside me like old times. He said he misses me. Chief, before we go, is there anything else you wanna tell us? Because I've been kind of running things and directing things, but tell us something that you didn't get to say that you want to say. Take out however long you want.
I don't have a lot left. Just pay attention to the solar flares and the Schumann resonance because that's where the genetic upgrades is coming from. And you be feeling funny, go check it because it might be related to you being upgraded.
I've been feeling funny lately, so what's that mean?
Look up the Schumann resonance and the solar flares. They going at it. They having a whole conversation.
Should we?
The
So we
uni-
shouldn't be avoiding them, right or no?
nah, look, the universe speaking frequency. They don't use English.
Mhm.
And the frequency is measurable by man-made instruments. So you can actually see what the sun is doing and what the earth is doing in response. They're having a whole two-way dialogue.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel a little different. You know what I mean? And I've been trying to figure out why I feel different. You know what I mean? Why I'm feeling certain feelings of, and maybe that's something to do with that. I don't know.
Well, I know the women gonna get the most upgrades faster than anybody else because they control mitochondria, and that's where the genetic upgrades is coming through the frequency that comes through the mitochondria.
So the solar flares, are we seeing them or just feeling them? I mean, are we literally gonna see things shoot flat in the sky, or is it just energy that
The
is coming?
well, the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights and the Southern Lights
Hmm.
going to be able to be seen in places where they're not normally seen because of the frequencies coming in. It's giving like a ripple effect, a rolling um, aura response. So you be able, they've been reporting it and filming it too. Some people been on social media filming the Northern Lights, but
Hmm.
you'll be able to see that. But also, there's a whole bunch of extra planetary bodies in the solar system right now.
I mean, are they planets or are they vessels? I mean, they can't be planetary. They can't be vessels if they're planets. So things are coming into closer, or what's
Yeah.
happening?
Well, you got to remember that we got a binary star system. When a secondary star comes through, it got a debris trail that follows it. In that debris trail are ships, planets, asteroids, meteors. It's all following that. It's in the tailwind and it's being drugged behind it like cans on a wedding car.
Really? I know they've been talking about the potential of a couple of asteroids hitting and stuff like that. And,
That's why they doing all them warnings now. You know, we got global volcanic warnings for volcanic eruptions, which normally happens when it get closer.
mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Well, okay. But not to worry, just to receive it, look it up, see what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe you should be time the time for rituals and meditation or some kind of cleansing to prepare for what's happening.
Um, if you ain't did your cleanses now, you behind, so you need to catch up. But you need your filters clean, heavy metal detox.
You know what? And yeah, so tell me what else we need, because that's a good segue to what I want to say before y'all go, because y'all like to go before I say
And to
something.
practice grounding. The
Put your
grounding
feet
help
out.
you stabilize your inner energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of that, Chief, the company that I'm with, I'm doing I'm gonna just put this up for a minute. We're doing let me bring this down so we can see. I'm having a launch on next, what is it, next Friday? No, next Saturday. I'm sorry. Any of y'all who want to find out about some awesome stuff that we have that will help detox you and take out heavy metals and stuff like that, take down this meeting ID 581-669-8276, and the passcode's Diamond. This is Zoom, and it's going to be next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm having the launch to tell you about some amazing holistic stuff that actually is coming out of Mexico, where they don't use chemicals or anything, and we have some amazing products that will help do what Chief said. It'll take out the heavy metals, the detox your liver, your kidney. We have stuff that even if you're in pain, that you can alleviate the pain without having to take pharmaceuticals type stuff. But we gotta have a lot of industry leaders on next. They won't be on here, but Zoom. So I want you to come and be at my launch next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Pacific, and actually just take down that passcode. I would love to see us pack the place out. So I'm probably gonna give away some free gifts or something. That is probably what I'm going to do with that. For Friday, we actually, I don't have a flyer for it, but we will have our Living in Private class at House of Reawakening Minds. So if you've been wanting to come for our 4 Fridays, we are having it again this 4 Friday coming up. So come out. People come from all over the country for that, Chief. I was telling them, I get people to come from Florida and California and everything, and people who live next door, across the street, won't come over to the House of Reawakening Minds. People come from around the country, but they won't come around the corner.
Well, you know what they say in the Bible: prophet is not without honor except in his own home among his own kindred.
Absolutely.
So the ones closer to you is least likely to see your light.
Yeah. Leto Turner, if you don't like the way I host, you know what? I've been doing this for a while, and you ain't got to be here on my channel. How about that? How dare you talk about I'm not a good host, and I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. I've never seen you on here, whoever you are, and I'm saying that with a smile. I just let my folks get you. Like, they can get you. Thank you for whoever said that. China Lynn, your friend, I'm talking about I don't know how to ask good questions. I talk conversationally. I when I'm friends with my guests. Yeah, huh?
If you had to explain yourself to somebody that came to your channel to watch your content, you're doing too much.
I know, but I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, because it just jumped up. I'm like, how dare they? No, I'm not offended because they stupid.
Look, if you don't have no hecklers, that means you ain't doing something right. As long as you're doing something right, it's gonna be somebody trying to tell you. Remember, I told you.
Well, all she got to do is
wherever peaceful people congregate. Look, wherever people congregate, peaceful people congregate. The shit started coming in. Can't stand to see two peaceful people having the peaceful conversation. They want some drama. They want some gossip, some juicy. Let's talk about Puffy. Let's talk about Will Smith. I don't care about them people. Let them people live their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you won't dim my shines, honey, whoever you are. I mean, you definitely don't. I think you're new because this is my style. This is who I am. And, it is who I is. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Chief, as always, for coming on. I want to put this back up again, make sure that they know.
Thanks for inviting me over here to your space to come spend this time.
It's always a privilege and an honor to have you here, because we always learn something new. I do, like I said. So, like I said, today, when you told me that He'd been in prison for Larry, who had been in prison for 52 years. I was dumbfounded. I was like, really?
Listen, here go the kicker. His co-defendant been out since the 90s, right? But Larry never killed anybody in his life. But the state case is a murder case. But they know he never killed anybody.
But they just, yeah.
COINTELPRO. If we don't understand that COINTELPRO was they changed the name to Readiness Exercise 1984, and it was exposed during the Iran-Contra trial. I'm just saying.
So I mean, why would did he get 100 years? Or I guess they didn't expect him to live this long in that situation, you know?
Well, he had been stabbed several times in prison. He got stabbed in the county jail, and then he got stabbed in prison.
I didn't know that. So they tried to take him out even in there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, he's there for a reason. He's survived for a purpose. And somebody said 2,000 years. They gave him 2,000 years.
200.
200 years.
They're sentenced to 200 years in the state. In Illinois, they got anybody that have any kind of influence, and they catch them on what they call Class A. I think it's called a Class A felony, murder, armed robbery, like that. They try to give them like basketball numbers, 150 to 200, just so they know that if they don't get no relief on the appeal, they won't never get out. So they give them life, you go up for parole in 20 years. You still come up parole. Like his last parole hearing that he went to, they denied him because he was under federal indictment. Okay. So it's a whole lot of guys that they didn't want to let out out now. Right.
Well, I hope his family listens to what your advice, which could you say it again so that just in case somebody's watching this in the family, they know the best way to go about?
I wouldn't go to the governor for clemency. I would have the lawyers file a special parole interview based on the sentence commutation from the president. And I would use his commutation as a letter of recommendation from the highest office in the land.
And the reason I wouldn't the governor is because he and Trump are at war.
Right. So we don't want them to use Larry for a political ping pong ball. Because that's what ended up happening. He don't like Trump, so he won't get Larry no air. Larry ain't got nothing to do with Trump.
Right.
Other than Trump giving him some relief from that trumped up federal garbage. Mm-hmm. Look at this. George Bush, Ronald Reagan, Oliver North, and I think the guy named was Poindexter was all indicted in the for the Iran-Contra. Ronald Reagan and George Bush walked clean. Oliver North I think he got a 1-year probation and a 1-day suspended sentence in jail. Now, they wasn't bringing over a key. They was bringing over tonnage. Let that sink in. And this man did nothing but told all of us. He the reason why I was in there reading all them damn books. I didn't know what the hell they got me in the library reading all them damn books for. Somebody had to do it. He said, we need somebody to hit the library hard, read everything in there. I'm reading cookbook recipes, reading books in the library. Just so I can make sure I don't miss nothing. Reading law books, history books, obscure history, revisionist history, mathematics, science. Reading all this stuff. I'm like, then I get to the point, I'm like, why am I reading this? And then some messenger come along and say, you don't need the paper to get your PhD, you need the knowledge. But the only thing he ever told us is the children that's trying to do right, protect them. We don't need no more gangsters. That's Larry. We don't need no more gangsters. We need doctors, lawyers, scientists, mathematicians, This is what he's been telling us since 74. Since he he didn't even want the position. He was forced under the threat of death to take the position. That in of itself should be enough to give him some reprieve. And Don Dirk tell the story on he was either on Vlad, he was on one of them podcasts, and he told the story he was there. And they was like, Larry, these dudes say you their leader, whether you want to be or not. You can't shirk tribal responsibility. You bring the whole tribe down on your head. But when they got you thinking that it's something other than tribal, then the government can manipulate the story. Remember Malcolm said the media will have you thinking that your worst enemy, your best friend, and your best friend is your worst enemy. Media manipulation is all it is.
Well, I'm glad you listened. I'm glad you listened and studied and read and absorbed all that you did and continue to do that. It's become a way of life for you.
I tell you, if I know how to be doing all this social media, I wouldn't have did
it. I know people.
I hate social media.
Some folks in the chat have said they want to get in touch with you, but I know the only way they can get in touch with you is via social media. You have a YouTube page. They can DM you in YouTube, but there's no email that you give out or any website. So you'd have to go to. And do you have an Instagram or TikTok?
Yeah, the Instagram is a sick 8. I haven't did anything on TikTok yet, but I'm thinking about moving over there because I've been shadow banned on Instagram for over a year.
Oh, really?
They had me banned on Facebook for 2 years before they let me do a live.
Wow.
So when they blocked me out of Facebook, I went over to Instagram to do my lives.
Mm-hmm. So now
then they blocked me out. Yeah. Then they blocked me on Instagram and they forced me back to Facebook.
Well,
so I'm thinking about picking up TikTok because that's a whole nother niche.
Yeah, it is. And you got these little. I see you on TikTok sometimes, but people take, I guess, a little excerpt from your Instagram and then they put it on TikTok because that's some of those reactionary videos, and it'll be, oh, that's right. I've seen you on there, but I know it's always with somebody else making the, printing it. I mean, publishing it. So yeah.
Somebody said they did some amazing stuff with the information I put out. They done made AI animations and all kind of stuff.
Oh, really? So I say Denzel. No, sorry. Yeah, Rod Hayes. Yeah. So okay. We added a little 20 more minutes, and Twitter is supposed to have more freedom. They show crazy things there. So do they have videos actually? I guess you can actually go live on Twitter. Somebody saying,
I don't know. I have a Twitter account, but I don't use that.
X or whatever it's called now. I believe it's called X.
Yeah, it's called X now.
Yeah. So check them out. As many places as you can show up, get this information out, and I know that people will be enhance their lives, and the knowledge will be. Oh, spell sick 8. Do whoever see it on the screen? I don't know if you're just listening, but for PayPal, if that's what you're asking, it's SIKAPE01. Yeah.
But Instagram is the sick 8 with no numbers.
The THESIKHPE. I mean APE. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
On Facebook is just Rod Hayes.
Okay. Yeah, that one's easier. All right. So okay. Well, listen, we're gonna go, and I told you I'll be back on Friday with Grand Chic. And for those of you who come to my launch on Saturday, I'd love to have you there. Learn about some stuff that's going to help you feel and look better, So I'm being the poster child for it at 70. So, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we are going to go. He's gone. See that, y'all? So thank you for being here. And see you on Friday with Brand Chic. How's that? Yeah, we going. Did you leave? Did you come back? Oh, I thought you left. You popped out. All right.
Yeah, that's
Yes. Okay. I'm not gonna make you stay up all night and talk to me for 4 hours. So you come back
okay,
again.
Dr. B.
You
All
need
right.
your
It's been a
rest.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure having a conversation with you, and we're gonna do it again when you're ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Peace, family.
Peace. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. Dr. G. 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 Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me.